D&D in a castle. I go every year whenever I'm invited, and I have a huge amount of fun. This time round, I did 2 back-to-back tables, and they were very different, even though the story was almost identical. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy and I'm talking about Dungeons & Dragons in a Castle, which happens here in the UK as well as now in the USA. So if you don't know what they are, www.dndinacastle.com and you can find out more. Please, please, please remember financial security before gaming. Now, I get invited to go along to D&D in a Castle every now and again because, well, people seem to like the way that I run games, which is very gratifying. I'm also trying to avoid the sun, which is currently bearing down on me with incredible power. So you know that I'm not a vampire. What does this have to do with D&D in a Castle? Well, this time around I was invited to run 2 back-to-back sessions. So group 1 and then group 2. I thought the only way to maintain my sanity would be to run the same game twice. So if you were one of my players, I'd love to hear your comments on how you thought the game ran. But also, I would love to hear your comments on if you've ever run a game and then run the same game again. Perhaps you've gone to a convention or you're running modules and you've run the same module and it's been radically different. So with that in mind, of course, I have Group A. Group A are a bunch of folks who really know their rules very, 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 very well. And they never fought with me in terms of rules, but they certainly strongly advised each other on the rules. Their adventure started with a big bang. A lot of the characters that had been made for this particular adventure had a kind of an investigatory, seeking, searching, understanding background. They wanted to solve problems. They wanted to link things together. There was like an astrologer and there was an ex-cop and there was a this and there was a that. I decided that the best thing to do would be to give them this big mystery that they have to look into and then run from there. So they started with a big bang. Literally, an asteroid slammed into a volcano nearby and a tsunami nearly sank their ship. It was a pretty big bang. What I didn't take into account, and this was awesome, was the fact that the players went, this giant thing has just happened. It's super scary and it nearly sank us. We could go and get more information from over here, over there, or over there. Or we could just head straight for the thing. My baddie had a plan. My evil character was a devil by the name of Damnifer. And Damnifer had a singular purpose. He was using, once again, the Café de Jubilé coffee, which is now a stock standard in my D&D in a Castle games, Angel's Blood, to create a gigantic hole in the planet. Into another plane, as a matter of fact, from which could arise this titanic world eater who was going to consume the entire prime material plane and allow the devils to basically create a new plane where the rules of the Blood War were no longer in play. That was Damnifer's initial plan. Damnifer in this case also wasn't the big bad. Well, at least he was, and then he died. The players killed him. And then they killed him again. And then they killed him a third time. So I was like, okay, I need to have something in here that's a little bit more interesting than just this poor devil who keeps getting the snot beaten out of him. As a matter of fact, after the first combat had run through and the player characters had eaten through him so easily, I decided that this was actually his shtick. Bear in mind, when devils are killed on the prime material plane, according to D&D anyway, they simply return to the plane of hell and are reconstituted. It's only if they actually die in hell that they are obliterated. So Damnifer was quite happy with them to kill him while he was buying time for his allies to escape. The players went on an incredible journey, but always basically directly towards the volcano. Now, something that the players had access to, which, well, it's one of those spells that you go, it's a hit or a miss. Usually it's a miss, was banishment. And they used it to tremendous effect. I think of the banishments, they banished Damnifer, they banished this character, they banished a giant dragon turtle, they banished they banished all of these things. I think they failed once in one attempt. Otherwise, every other time they got through. And that was because of a really good build on behalf of all the different characters who could make me reroll and who could do this and who could do that and all sorts of things, as well as just on incredibly poor rolls from the monsters. Now, I'm not blaming the monsters for that failure at all. It was a lot of fun to have this giant impending doom and suddenly, oh, it's been banished, either for a minute, as was the case of one of the creatures, which then did make a dramatic comeback at just the wrong moment, but that was that. So Damnifer died multiple times, he had a boss, and eventually the players found themselves at the very heart of the volcano, surrounded by lava, with the corpses and bodies of 10,000 sacrifices, which unfortunately they didn't manage to save, which instead of turning into a giant Tarrasque-like creature, just turned into a giant corpse golem, which they then had to fight and defeat before the chamber filled with lava. This they managed to successfully do, and then they carried on about their business. Team B did not have so many investigators as they embraced the nautical flavor of the game. I had said to both groups that the game was set in an archipelago and that if they wanted a ship, it was all theirs. And if they didn't want the ship, well, that's absolutely fine as well. It could be a background transport. Team B were all about the ship. As a matter of fact, Team B, they sold their sails and the sides of their ship for advertising. At first, Cobalt Coffee, which is a rival brand of coffee which now exists in the world of the D&D Castle space, bought some space on the side of their ship to advertise that Cobalt Coffee, it's like crack. This lasted for a few moments until one of my other DMs at the castle, Elisa Teague, discovered this, and as the mother of Café de Joublet, let's just say a flock of ravens arrived demanding that they got the sponsorship space on the ship in perpetuity or damnation for all time, or at least banishment to the abyss. The players decided that this was a much better idea, besides it paid better, and so their ship was suddenly sponsored by Café de Joublet. My players really embraced the trading aspect of it and made sure to get good deals everywhere. They were more on a chase, following down clues which they have discovered to what Damnifer was doing. The change that I made was because they were much more interested in their ship, I didn't want Damnifer to have a single point of origin, the volcano with the asteroid that he was using to kill thousands and thousands of slaves at a single stroke. I wanted it to be spread around. So Damnifer was creating a whole bunch of holes in the planet using the Café de Joublet and Angel's Blood, and he was going to do exactly the same thing. But he now had a different method in which he was doing it. So the players traveled around the world and they made alliances. We had a marriage, we had the elves involved, we had halflings involved, we had human fleets involved, and they killed Damnifer once, and mainly by accident, because they also killed all of themselves as well, except for one little rogue who was left in a very difficult situation and had to try and bring back her companions. Let's just say that when the characters discovered an angel being kept by Damnifer in a tower, they may or may not have ignited their ship full of Café de Joublet, which blew the tower themselves, the angel and the coffee together, and that's Angel Blood and Café de Joublet, causing a mega explosion. This annihilated everybody, including Damnifer. But unlike previous games, this happened right towards the end, so Damnifer was dead. But what was not dead was the fact that the player characters basically enacted his plan just 3 miles short of the epicenter of where he was going to do it. So the giant Tarrasque-like creature that emerged from this hole was not as strong as it would have been if it had been at the epicenter, and the plane was no longer shifting into another plane. The player characters were part of a massive fleet of about 50 ships on each side that had to engage in battle with each other as they fought for survival, basically. It was a very, very different game, and basically from the same premise. Both games, super fun, lots and lots of things going on. There was character growth in both of them. There was happiness, there was sadness, there was high fives. But what really made me sit back and realize just how amazing our hobby is the fact that at my table I had people from Iraq, I had people from Israel, I had people from Germany, I had people from the US, I had people from the UK, I had people from Australia. It was this wonderful coming together of all of these different nations, all playing, all striving to achieve the same goals, which primarily were defeating Damnifer, the poor devil, but also of overcoming the challenges that the game was throwing at them and having fun whilst doing it. That is my D&D in a Castle experience, and if you can make it, it is a hell of a lot of fun. Big thank you to you for watching all the way through the end. Huge thank you to our editor for compiling all of these videos together in such a sharp and snappy way. Thank you to the sun gods who have brought the sun out for just today when I decide to record the videos. And until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.